We're rolling, ladies and gentlemen. That means it's time for me, Christopher Cotter, to start speaking. He is
David Robertson,
and we are
the Religious Studies Project.
We rehearsed that so well. We're recording this as we're packing our bags, sipping our pina coladas, waiting to go to Bonn for an exotic, all expenses paid. Look at these ivory tower academics sitting around chatting about religion event. You are just about to listen to David speaking to Tehri Utriainen about angel spirituality. Take it away, David.
I'm here in Edinburgh today. I'm joined by Tehri Utriainen from the University of Helsinki, where she is professor in the study of religions. And today we're going to be talking about angels in kind of popular spirituality, particularly in Finland, but hopefully also a slightly larger context as well. So first of all, welcome to the Religious Studies Project.
Thank you so much, David.
Let's start then just with tell us a little bit about this kind of angel practices, angel spirituality. Who are we talking about? What are the practices? Just set it up for us.
Okay. Well, my context, of course, is Finland, but as you yourself said, it is more wide and you can find it elsewhere. You can find it in the UK. There's been studies done in the UK, in the US, in Norway, in Estonia, for instance, rather recently. Whom are we talking about? We are talking about women. This is really the kind of extreme women-dominated religiosity that you can imagine. Usually people say that in the grassroots religion, the practitioners are 60% female, and holistic spiritualities, if you like to use that term, it's like around 80%. This was the Kendall Project numbers, for instance. And with angels, the figures go much higher. They are like over 90% as far as my research is concerned. So we are talking about women interested in angels.
What kind of women? I mean, are we talking about the same sort of women that we would expect to find in kind of holistic spiritualities, for instance, generally from the Kendall Project, for instance, mostly kind of middle class, fairly well educated, fairly well off, these same kind of things?
Fairly well women. Yes, and yes, more or less we are. Well, when we go to Finland, it's a kind of perhaps a little bit different society from the UK. We like to think that we are more equal in the social way. We don't have this social strata as much as you have here. But it's a kind of we fool ourselves a bit, of course, yes, with these things always. But it is a middle class. I would say that it's mostly lower to middle class, but all middle classes, but a very kind of varied educational backgrounds. A lot of women who work in caring and education professions, for instance. These women are also interested in other practices, not only angels, and all sorts of holistic practices. Something that all my interviewees mentioned really was like Reiki healing, and it's one form of energy healing, which is now so popular in all of the Western world, I guess. It comes from Japan through Hawaii, but it's become popular all over. But these women with angels tend to be, I would say, a little bit more towards Christianity, because there is this angel figure. But I see quite a variation with the people that I've interviewed, and I made also a sort of a survey thing, a smallish survey thing, that some of them consider themselves Lutheran. Lutheranity is our home religion in Finland, but then there is the other end who are kind of completely disconnected from the church and have their background, for instance, in esotericism, theosophy, spiritualism, anthroposophy. But then there's a third group of women who come from the secular world, who come from secular families, and at least tell me that they don't really have very much religious background at all, and they got into religion through this.
What sort of religious makeup are we talking about in Finland, just for the benefit of our listeners? I mean, here, obviously, we're somewhere between 70 to 55%, depending on what part of the country you're in.
Like Church of England or those big churches?
Of the sort of state churches,
Yeah.
I mean, England's sitting at about 65 and Scotland's a little bit lower, about 58.
Yeah. So the number is going down regularly all the time in Finland at the moment. And last year's Church Monitor survey gives us something like 72%.
Okay.
And the women a bit more than men. And then the next, next biggest church in Finland would be the Orthodox Church, but that is a very low number of participants or members. So we are a very Lutheran country still, but the figures are going down.
Part of the reason I ask that is I have a kind of personal interest in this subject. There's some people in my family are involved in this kind of stuff. My grandmother and my auntie, her youngest daughter, both do these kind of angel cards. Now, my family's not a strongly religious family, but have become so over time. My granny's now in her early 80s, and she converted to Anglicism when my granddad died a couple of decades ago. Whereas my auntie converted to Catholicism because she married an Irishman. So they're really the only two properly Christian members of the family, but different, one's Protestant, one's Catholic. But they have this angel kind of practices in common. Now, they're a little bit secretive about actually what it is. The few things I've been picking up is that there are some cards, but as much as I got was they sort of identified with particular figures, and these were associated with various qualities and colours and things like that. Could you, fill us in a little bit about that kind of aspect of the practical side of it, what it involves?
Sure. First of all, I want to say that when you say that, well, please, now through my research, you get the possibility to learn something from your family members, about your family members.
Yeah.
I've heard several men tell me that, well, now I understand my mother better, now I understand my sister better, or something like this, because they kind of get a glimpse of it, and then the women tell something about it, but don't open up the whole stuff immediately. Yes, there are these practices, and whereas the angel is a Christian figure, and we have all this Christian sort of mythology and narrative and image traditions on angels. The idea in Christianity basically is that angels are like godly power, and God gives us angels and angelic power when he so wants to do. So this contemporary practice is much more practical for the women. It's a practical religion, and everyday practical religion that uses several kinds of techniques and means. You mentioned cards. Angel card reading is quite popular, and the first angel cards that I met in Finland were cards coming from your country, in fact, or US. Now there are also already some indigenous Finnish angel card traditions too. That goes a bit like tarot card reading. You can either make like a table of them, or you can just take one card for the day, or one card for a puzzling question that you have in your mind, and so you read an enigmatic answer, maybe just a word. Well, the word might be like happiness. The word might be like a balance, or these kind of things that you also might find in horoscopes. So that is one thing, but they also have their imagery, and like you said, certain angels may be linked to certain colors, for instance, which might give this woman a kind of lens into her life, in the sense that when she learns, either through cards or through somebody, that her angel is linked to color green, which would then perhaps be the color of the archangel Raphael. Then every time she's drawn to green, she gets a message. So it could go like this. But then there are meditations, several kinds of angel meditations, often like a visual journey. You are led to a sacred garden where you meet your angel, you talk to your angel, you ask something, your angel gives you a symbol or a word or something. You are led back from the meditation And then you are there either yourself or with a group of friends, angel-minded friends, and you interpret this thing that you got, and you relate to your life's bigger or smaller things. And then there is, of course, this more or less the thing that connects with this holistic milieu even more is the angel healing aspect. There are angel healing courses, and you can learn to become a healer, a bit like Reiki healer, who heals others or who heals yourself. But angel healing, as far as I know, is mostly used for something that we might call emotional issues and emotional problems. And I think that this highlighting the topic of emotions and how important emotions is, perhaps particularly to women in contemporary world, is extremely interesting, because then it's related to the high numbers of depression and emotion work in very many ways.
Yeah, which also might, I think there's quite high rates of depression and suicide and stuff in some of the Northern European countries. But that trajectory of women and the kind of therapeutic culture is very, very common. You see that a lot in, you see it a lot in the sort of holistic mind, body, spirit kind of world here, particularly female, but you also see the same trajectory with men, and also in the kind of, for, the conspiracy theory world. I looked at this in my work, for instance, David Icke, his passage into kind of conspiracy theory world was looking for alternative therapies to treat his arthritis. He ended up going to a medium who channeled messages to him.
Mediumship is here, is present in the...
But those discourses on, on healing and on holistic healing as well, the idea that your emotions and your body are linked, is found right across that kind of cultic milieu, not only in the more sort of overtly spiritual aspects of it.
Definitely. And I think that one other notion that is very, very closely connected to emotions, another E word is energy.
Yes.
Emotions and energy, and the ways that you can sort of manage them, or you can make use of them, but you can also sort of control them. And like you said, channeling is something. Emotions in my materials are often considered as one sort of type of energy.
Yeah.
One type of energy that works a lot in the human world. And as energy it's power. And it can be used into good, but it can also be sort of, if it's let all loose, it can do bad things.
Well, yeah, and I wondered when we were talking about the colours earlier on. I mean, that's immediately what I thought of was the rays of the sort of theosophical tradition, where the colours represent different frequencies of energy or different energies, and that by selecting a particular colour, you can encourage that particular emotion or energy. Which leads to my next question, which is, all of this stuff that you've been describing so far, from using cards for readings, healings, visualization, the idea of correspondences of colours attracting particular energies, the even the use of cards themselves, it all, and the association with therapeutic culture, this all seems taken exactly from kind of 19th century esotericism, the sort of what we would call, Western esotericism nowadays, yet has this Christian kind of, I don't want to say veneer, but it's a Christian framing of those practices. Yes,
but there always was kind of Christian esotericism as well. They have never been like completely apart, even though probably some like ruling churches and ruling theologies would like them apart. But there has been much more linkages. But if we, I might also say that, in particular in the context of Finland, perhaps, but maybe this applies even larger settings, esotericism earlier on used to be a bit more elitist. It was not for the whole, for everybody and for all the people in Finland anyways, not and openly anyway. So now what we see is something like democratization and popularization of this esotericism and bringing it openly with in connection with Christianity.
Yeah.
And this also, of course, has to do maybe for many things, like things that are marketed to us and how popular culture circulates, but also has to do with the grip of the church loosening. The church doesn't have the normative power anymore in people's everyday lives.
Yeah.
In Finland, for instance, perhaps here too, but in Finland, where the ruling church was a Lutheran church, Lutheranity meant for those people who were not very religious, very pious. Lutheranity was mostly a normative system.
Yeah.
Saying what you do in public life, what you don't do in public life. But this is less so now.
I wonder if it's not only its normativity in the society, it's also the normativity of the scholars and the categories that we're looking at. Yeah. I wonder if this stuff was always going on, but it was kind of hidden from our view because it wasn't considered suitable for us to look at and so on.
For the scholars of Britain?
Yeah.
Yes, and it was not funded. I mean, it was not taken seriously because it was not the serious religion. It was the fringe stuff.
Yes.
And I have seen a lot, and I suppose a lot of people have seen it, that the bigger money always goes to religion, which is considered as a cultural heritage stuff, kind of elevated, sublime thing, more or less. Whereas this hobby-level religion with their crazy knowledge systems...
Well, there is a sense in which you get the impression that people we don't really want to encourage this.
No, yeah.
Yes. If we pay this too much attention, it might be seen that we're taking it seriously.
Yes, exactly.
So tell us then, how did you get to looking at this stuff? What was your, your passage into this?
My concrete passage into this was that I was involved in a larger project that was led by Professor Peter Nunes in the Åbo Akademi University, which is a Swedish-speaking university in Finland, in Turku. And I was lucky enough to get the jump on that project when it started. And the project is called Post-Secular Culture and a Changing Religious Landscape in Finland, where we wanted to look into the margins and outside fields from Lutheranity, and what was happening there. And we were several people, and we had several case studies. We started to pick something that we were interested in, or something that somebody was already engaged with, or something, anyways, that could sort of give us a good palette. Sort of mosaic view to things that were happening. And since I was more or less kind of a specialist, if you like, in women's folk popular religion, we were starting to, it was not my own idea at all. We were starting to think that what is it that happens in this type of religiosity today? One possible thing would have been like healing and Reiki and stuff. But then we decided that, well, angels was just at that time becoming so popular precisely in Finland, that we thought that opens up a window through which we can see some interesting things. And so it happened. And some books came out and people got really interested in the angel stuff. And I had a lot of fun doing this for a couple of years and still have writing on it. Fun in many ways, but not fun only in a hilarious way, but also that I had very nice fieldwork experiences, and I learned very much about both the serious sides of religion and life, but also about the less serious sides of it.
Tell us how you went about the study then. Was it predominantly kind of ethnographic work?
It was ethnographically oriented, multi-method stuff.
Okay.
I love working ethnographically. Well, I went and see what happens, and I took myself into those happenings and situations. Like, for instance, there was a yoga school week in when I started my ethnography in one yoga school in Helsinki, where they have their yearly angel week. So I went through that week and saw how these angels popped into the yoga classes,
Right.
which was a good start in the sense that it brought me into meeting young people, mostly young people who kind of were interested in this. And so I couldn't work only with the idea that this is middle-aged women's or women in their late middle ages stuff. So I started with that. Then I started to contact people. I used the snowball method to get interviewees. I went for courses. I contacted people, said, can I come? And then there was this Irish, very popular Irish, I don't know how popular she's here, but a woman who writes biographies and other books where she recounts her life with angels, Lorna Byrne, whose books just then become to be translated in Finnish, and who paid visits to Finland, and all the visits were sold out. There were 1,000 women with a handful of men come there hand in hand with their female friends to listen to how this contemporary Irish mystic tells how she sees the place full of angels and describes people's angels. Well, I made a survey in one of her visits and wanting to know about backgrounds of these women who come to listen to her, etc., etc. Then I sort of followed the media reactions. I followed the church reactions. I did sort of a multi-angle thing.
So it was very much ethnography then in all of the senses it can be. So not only sort of qualitative interviewing, but participant observation.
Yes.
And kind of media discourse analysis as well.
Yes, and also this kind of the smallish survey, I got 263 answers so that I could a bit see the demographic things and stuff.
And how did they take to you? Or, I mean, how open about your research were you, and how
I was very open about my research. I was open even in the bigger settings, particularly when I was distributing the questionnaire. Of course, I told what it's about. And I was open when I went to study as an angel healer. That was the most participant observation part of it. They were everybody was at that time probably so happy about this thing happening, and they probably considered me as a possible advocate for them and taking the whole thing to the academy. I remember, may I tell you one a nice interview situation where there was this woman who channels angels, and I knew that she channels angels, and that was one of my reasons for contacting her. And she also wanted her husband to be in the interview, so I interviewed the two of them. Before we started the interview, she said to me, we had a cup of coffee, I was at their home, and she said that, what if my angel also wants to become interviewed? I mean, the angel that she channels.
The angel was present then.
She said, what if she
comes? What if, right,
what if, I said, well, I'm very happy, of course, but then I tried to make a joke. I said that, but I probably don't have the informed consent for the angel because I wasn't prepared,
Yeah.
Because I had two copies. I had for the husband and I had for her.
It'd be an interesting subject to come up at the ethics commission.
Exactly. Well, what happened then was that after some time of interview, maybe 1 hour, it was one of the longest interviews that I made, she says that now I think she wants to come. My angel wants to come.
Right.
And I'm like, okay. It was kind of exciting, I have to admit.
And did the angel contribute to the conversation?
Yes. Then I have 40 minutes of interview with the angel in my tape.
Oh, fantastic.
And after that, the angel goes away and the woman goes back and we continue. And while the woman has a bit difficulties, as tells me her husband, in coming back, resuming her own mortal role, the husband gives me the explanation that, well, it often is a bit difficult for her to come back after the angel has gone, because there is this liminal period. Well, now what I have there and I have a subchapter in a book I'm now going to publish in Finnish, unfortunately, but I have one subchapter interview with an angel.
Fantastic.
But that is kind of that was interesting also in the sense, because what did the angel say in the interview? Well, several things, but one important thing was that I have my small recorder on the table, okay? And the angel goes very close to the recorder and says that, and I want to say this to science. And please go and tell this to Åbo Academy Science.
Okay.
You know, so it was a very intricate dynamics that was going on there, because was she making fun of me? Or was she really like taking her making angel meeting science, not through only the people mediating it? It was really interesting. I haven't really found a way well to talk about this so far.
What that suggests to me is that the sort of spirit guide is often, there's a kind of yin-yang relationship, right? So they're like the animus and the anima in Jungian psychology, or, the various sort of spirit animals are often the opposite gender kind of thing. So if she is existing in this modern, rational, secular, supposedly so world, then her spirit companion is the opposite, and so represents to her kind of the spiritual world, and that is one which is often set up against science, and science as the disenchanted, the black iron prison. And whereas the spiritual world is the enchanted one, and so naturally would be pitted against the rationalism represented by science.
But, there I had them two coming together, and the enchanted world coming directly nearly to shout at the disenchanted world represented by the recorder.
Yeah, so the recorder is actually representing that as well.
It's a hard fact there, and the angel goes into that hard machine.
But happy to use science to make its point.
Yes, but also...
And capable of doing so.
And very capable of doing so. Even consider that it was a small girl angel.
Oh, okay.
6 years old or something like this, but nevertheless very skillful in that. But
so for this woman, the angel was a female child. That's interesting.
Yeah, it was a woman in her 50s, and the angel was a female child. Yeah.
But that's not usually the case, is it?
The angel asked me that, do you know, can you guess why I appear as a small girl? And the answer was, in fact, I was a bit silly. I offered the answer. I offered my guess, and she took it. I don't know, maybe I should have done something else. But I said that maybe it is because we are not afraid of children, small girls.
Yeah, no.
And she said that, yes, the enormous power that I bring is kind of less feared.
She was in her 50s, you said. Yeah. Had they had children?
They had, yes, they had a child together, a boy, early teens, and one of them, I don't remember which one of them, had like bigger children too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, the angel is a male figure.
Often in my material.
Yeah, and in my experience as well.
Yeah.
What is the appeal then? Why is it the angel particularly that's the center of this, not fairies or dragons or Thor or Spider-Man?
It is. Well, some of these women have a lot of things going on with a lot of other spirits as well. But some, I might say that those who consider themselves and identify mostly as Lutheran, they don't take other spirits as easily, but angel is something that they allow in their lives. Well, angels, I mean, I wouldn't mind having an angel, male angel in my life, considering how beautiful they are, how wonderful they are depicted.
Yeah.
They come as their baby faces, but with their strong, wonderful wings and things. And, well, I sometimes play with this idea, because, in Finland we have, like, if we think about the mortal men, like the normal, ordinary men, we have a big number of engineers. Engineers are considered in Finland as men, this is a bit jokingly said, but men very reliable, and good in practical things, but not so good always in talking about emotions with the women, for instance.
Yes.
So these
I don't
women,
think that's unique to Finland, to be honest.
maybe. So these women sometimes even talked about their men who sometimes really were engineers. And they were sort of not replacing these husbands with these male angels, but complementing the scene with this like a figure which had something male, something masculine in it, in a protective sense, for instance, but which was also the perfect male in the sense that he understood their emotions.
Yeah.
Isn't that good?
It does make sense, absolutely.
It does make sense, yeah. And not all of them were male, but a lot of them were. And it appeared that the Archangel Michael, who is the protector soldier, was pretty much popular.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, 2 minutes. Thank you. There's going to be a class in here shortly, so we should wrap up. There's so many other questions I could have asked. I literally have a page of them written down in front of me, but I'm afraid we're out of time. Thanks so much for taking part in the Religious Studies project. And if you're interested in Tehri's work, do seek out her publications. And best of luck when the book comes out. I hope it comes out in English as well later on.
If you translate it.
I'd have to learn Finnish first. We'll see.
But there are articles in English. Plenty of them come out right recently. Some related to ritual studies, some related to religion and healing, and some related more to gender aspects, various theoretical angles.
Fantastic. And if you're on the website, then the links below will guide you to them. But in the meantime, thanks for taking part.
And thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, after that interview, I'm a little bit more mellow. I was a bit pumped up when we started recording there, David.
Yeah.
Great to hear that, and it ties in quite nicely with an interview that you recorded way back with Ingvild Gilhus on Unruly Angels.
Yeah, way back in 2014. So the interview with Ingvild is much more of a historical overview about how the idea of angels develops, and particularly how it sort of manifests in the New Age field.
I remember, yeah.
Whereas, so this one is kind of a nice pairing with that, because it's actually much more about its use in popular Christianity. Although there are obvious crossovers, the gender issues, for instance, and the focus on the Nordic countries.
Yeah.
So do check that one out if you enjoyed this one.
Perfect. Just before we forget to say it, first of all, thanks to BASR, IAHR and NAASR, and don't forget to use our amazon.co.uk.com and .ca links if you want to support us at no extra cost to you, or our Patreon link if you want to throw us some money. But
and thanks to everybody who's done that already. We really, really appreciate that.
Yeah. So we're just about to go to Bonn for a conference that's called Hijacked, that's been organised by Leslie Durras-Smith and colleagues at Bonn. You might be familiar with Leslie's work through the Culture on the Edge blog series that's hosted at the University of Alabama. And the whole conference is organised around this notion that there is a thing called religion, which is then hijacked or misused by various different agendas. And that's a topic that's come up an awful lot on the Religious Studies project. We're really excited. The core reading for the event has been Aaron Hughes's Islam and the Tyranny of Authenticity. And there are 4 areas, aren't there, where we're speaking to? There's the university,
the classroom, media, and I can't remember.
Probably politics.
Yeah, I would guess so, yeah.
We'll find out when we get.
But it's going to be a lot of fun. We're both speaking, as well as we're going to be recording some interviews while we're there. Haven't quite decided who we're going to be approaching yet. There's a few of our old pals going to be there. Suzanne Owen, Naomi Goldenberg, Titus Yelm has dropped out, but I think Timu's going to be there, isn't he?
Let's just start talking.
Maybe he's not been invited. I don't know. We better not get ourselves into trouble. So next time you hear from us, we'll be either in Bonn, sitting on the hotel balcony the night before, or in the airport on the way home, and we'll fill you in on what happened there.
Yeah, but as ever, folks, it's a sunny day in Edinburgh right now. As we say, we've just been sipping our pina coladas. We're going to go outside and do that now. But to you folks,
thanks for listening.